Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Welcome to our very first inaugural video on our brand new channel dealing with Manhattan, the Manhattan Home Team channel. My name is Daniel Ackerman. I am a listing specialist specializing in Manhattan. So thank you very much for joining us. If you are clicking over from our sister channel at Queen's Home Team, thank you very much for joining us over here. And if you just managed to land on the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is going to be the first of what I hope is going to be a weekly installment called the Monday Market Update. And in this series, we will be doing a weekly check-in with the key market stats and taking a year-on-year view so that you, as a Manhattan homeowner, whether you own a condo, co-op, or townhome, can keep your thumb on the pulse of the market, stay educated, and that way you can make the decisions that are right for you. So with that said, let's jump right into it. Now, generally speaking, this market overview, you want to start with supply. How much supply is there on the market? That's important because that's going to tell you as a homeowner how much competition there is, first of all. And secondly, it's going to tell buyers how much choice they have to choose from. So for this week, on the resale market, and resale is what you want to be looking at if you are an owner in Manhattan, because the new development market really isn't relevant to you. So looking at the resale market, right now, as of today, there are 5,924 units of any kind for sale in Manhattan. Year on year, that is an increase of just under 3%. So what that means for you as a seller is that compared to last year, the same time of year, which is what is the important thing that you want to measure. You always want to be looking at March versus March. You don't want to be looking at March versus January because different time of year, different season, different kind of buying environment. But March of this year compared to March of last year gives you a good sense of what the market is doing because all of those cyclical changes are accounted for, okay? So what that means, that increase of 3% in inventory, means that currently, as a seller, you have a little bit more competition than you would have last year. But key to that is understanding what the demand is like, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So supply up year on year 3%. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting. If we look at the monthly new supply, in other words, the supply that came on the market in March, this discounts anything that's been sitting on the market since January or February or earlier. But if we look at just the inventory that came on the market in March, that's actually down over 7% from the same time last year. Okay, so that's a really interesting dynamic. Overall inventory is up, but the inventory coming on is lower. So how do we interpret that? Well, it means that less sellers are jumping into the market, obviously, but it also means that potentially inventory is sitting on the market longer, which is why the inventory is actually year on year, the overall inventory has actually risen by 3%. So that's, if you're a homeowner, if you own a condo, co-op, or townhome, and you're thinking about selling, that's an important consideration to take into account because that tells you that you might have some headwinds in terms of selling. Now next, we want to look at monthly contract activity. Contract activity is really useful to give you sort of the temperature of the market, whether things are moving along or if things are really, really slow. And in the month of March, there were 853 contracts signed, which was a decrease of a little over 14% from the same time in 2023. So we're seeing signs there, again, that the market is slower than it was in March of last year. Next, we want to look at closed sales. Now, closed sales show you kind of a 3 to 6 month snapshot because it takes anywhere from 90 days to 6 months to close a sale in Manhattan. Co-ops take a long time to close. Condos generally will take about 90 days if there is lending involved, which is the vast majority of cases. So when you're looking at closed sales, it gives you a sense of what's been going on over the last 3 to 6 months. How has that market been doing? And what we see is that in the month of March, there were 674 closed sales, which is a decrease of a little over 13% from the same time last year. So that tells you that probably the fourth quarter and the third quarter of the previous year, so third and fourth quarter of 2023 were probably very slow times. Anecdotally, I can tell you it was very slow in the third and fourth quarter of 2023 compared to the third and fourth quarter of 2022. Because when you factor in how long it takes for things to close, now things are closing and we see that that's decreased significantly. Next, we want to look at prices. So median sale price is up by about 2% to $994,000. But that's not the most important metric to look at, because just because buyers are spending more money on closings doesn't necessarily mean that your apartment or your co-op, condo, or townhouse is worth 2% more than it was last year. What's really interesting to look at is the price per square foot. The price per square foot has actually dropped. So what does that mean? Price per square foot is dropping, but median prices are going up. How does that translate? Like, how does that make sense? Well, the simple fact of the matter is buyers are having to pay more, but they're buying larger apartments. They're getting more for their money. And that means that sellers are getting less per square foot than they were in 2023. So that's how you translate that. When those numbers don't match up, that tells you that there's either buyers are getting better value or sellers are getting more for what they're selling. And right now, buyers are getting better value. Sales over asking price is another thing that a lot of homeowners and potential sellers are interested in. And currently, very, very few homes, very, very few properties in Manhattan are selling over asking price. Only about just under 8%, really. 7.9% of the homes listed on the market are selling for over asking price. So how do you work with that? What does that mean to you? Well, number one, it means you can't really price very aggressively, meaning like pushing the envelope on getting a higher price, because very, very few buyers are going for that. But does that mean that you can't sell over asking? Absolutely not. It just means that you have to choose your list price very, very carefully so that you can try, you can't guarantee this, but you can try to generate more activity on your listing, get multiple bids, and through that multiple bid process, buyers can potentially bring the price up on your property to above what you initially listed it at. It's something that a lot of sellers are apprehensive of doing, but it is a successful way to list, especially in a buyer's market. You list the home, you list the condo, co-op, or townhouse at a very attractive value, and you attract all that attention, all of that activity, and hopefully get some bidding going that pushes the price upwards. But it's the exception rather than the rule right now. And finally, last but certainly not least, is the monthly absorption rate. This is one of the key stats that we realtors always want to look at, and is very important for home sellers and home buyers as well. The absorption rate's a theoretical number, so it's not a real number. It basically says, if nothing else came on the market, which obviously never happens, right? But just for the sake of argument, if nothing came on the market, how long would it take for everything that's currently on the market to sell out? And what that number tells you is the supply versus demand. Anything under 4 months is typically considered a seller's market in New York City. Anything above 6 months is considered a buyer's market. And anything from 4 to 6 months, anywhere in that range, is typically considered a balanced market. Things are kind of keeping track, inventory and activity is kind of tracking together. Now, what we're seeing is that the absorption rate is currently at 6.6 months, and that is an increase of 24.5% from last year. So what does that mean? That means that we are currently slightly into buyer's market territory because we're just over 6 months of inventory. But more importantly, the market has cooled significantly since March of last year because we've seen that absorption rate increase, which means that it's getting slower. And it's increased by 25% almost, which is a really substantial increase. So if you are a homeowner, if you own a condo, co-op, or townhome in Manhattan, and you are considering selling, and you want to learn more about how these stats impact you and how you can sell in this environment and sell for the least amount of hassle for the most money possible, then please do get in touch with me. I can sit with you, go over these stats in detail, but this gives you a high-level overview of what the market is doing. And if you're looking at selling a property in Manhattan, you need to be careful and make sure that you're taking the market into consideration and pricing accordingly. Thanks so much for watching. My information is on screen. If you'd like to get in touch, make sure to check the description below and you'll find my information there. Make sure as well to subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. We want the subscribers. We need the subscribers. We want to grow this channel. So subscribe and then hit the bell icon and you will get notifications of all of the new videos on the channel. We're really hoping to grow this channel significantly over the coming year. And we want to thank you so much for watching and make sure to come back and visit us for the next videos.